This world eats everyone, man. Eats everyone up, spits them out. Man.
I'm feeling spit out.
Hey, let's have a good show here for you guys.
Let's go Pacers.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR show.
Let's go.
Man, we get this thing going with a little mid-afternoon basketball on a weird court in Las Vegas.
What is the NBA doing?
The blue, red, white, yellow.
Everything about this game.
combination.
The court, the uniforms, the start time. The in-season tournament was so good up until right now.
Wins
Do
out.
we know why it is at 3 o'clock that they're doing this? Why would they go
I
up
think it
against
was
the DNVR
there was
show?
some kind of scheduling thing, I believe, with the arena itself.
That's hilarious.
There
that they
were like
planned this entire
100
thing
places
out.
you could play this game in Vegas, too.
Well, as I have advocated that in future years it's in the Sphere.
Okay.
Don't you think that'd be great? A Sphere game?
I mean, that'd be cool.
Can you imagine watching a game in the Sphere? That'd be incredible.
No, I don't even know.
Do you think you'll
if
go to
that's
the
possible.
Sphere?
Probably not.
No, I won't go to the Sphere. No,
Why
I've
not?
seen it. That's enough for
I
me.
mean, unless
No
I'm
way.
going
Are
to
you guys
see like a
serious?
concert or something.
yeah.
This is, I'm telling you guys, this
Well, I
is,
already missed the U2 show, so
this
I
is
mean,
like
yeah, might
back
as
in
well
the
not
day.
go.
Back in the day, have you ever seen the old commercials where they're like, Burger King now is accepting credit cards, and we interviewed folks, and they're not happy about it. And they're like, I'll never use a credit card. I take cash, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this is what it sounds like. You're like, I'll never go to the Sphere. The Sphere could be the coolest thing ever. Why would you deny yourself?
I mean, I'm not saying I would never go. I'm just not like carving out time in my year to go.
I might go next year,
Congrats.
depending on what's happening.
I hope you have a great time.
we could have been there like today, last night.
Oh
even.
my God, I
Unbelievable.
know. Can you imagine how different our lives would be if we were?
I'm mad at the Denver Nuggets.
I am too.
I wanted this one.
$500,000 to them, but a trip to Vegas for us denied to us. On today's show, guys, we are going to give some hangover takes on the Nuggets last night. Try to cleanse our palate and really ask this question of Reggie has been really good this year. Has he been as good as Bruce Brown? Is it possible? We'll talk about that. We're also going to look at updated threats in the West. Last time we did this was 6 weeks ago when we were talking about who is a real threat or not. I feel like now maybe it's changed a little bit. Are the Nuggets still in a tier of their own? Are there teams that now you go, you know what, that's a real challenge? And then we'll talk about the modern NBA, things you like, dislike, and then, of course, talk about this in-season tournament. And to help me talk about the tournament, I brought in Brendan Vogt.
Tournament. Is that wrong?
We all have our vocal tics, and we make fun of each
Is
other
it
for them.
It's tour, right?
I think you
Tournament?
say it an acceptable way. It's just different than the most common way.
I'm ready to take the L on it. I'm just trying to figure it out. Should I say tournament?
Tournament?
I think we call it like turn, like you turn.
Like
left.
TURN.
Tournament.
I say tournament.
And you say tournament.
Like torn apart.
Yeah, like torn. You do say it like torn apart.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, this show's about self-discovery. Over there, Harrison Wind.
I think I'm out on the in-season tournament just because of this series of events.
Blue with red on the court is really a tough one. I can't believe they went with it. I guess it's the NBA colors, isn't it? Do you think they'll do this next year? By the way,
NBA. I didn't even think about that.
it's red and blue, right? The
Oh,
NBA
right.
is red and
I
blue.
guess.
And
I
white.
mean, why else
They
would
could have gone white also.
They could have, but they went red and blue. Do you think they'll bring back these courts next
It also
year?
looks like there's absolutely nobody in the stands.
They put it really dark out there because you saw the tickets were going for super cheap.
I mean, it is 2:00 p.m. on a Thursday in Vegas.
So actually, let's get into this here. Well, first of all, I'll answer my question. Do you think that they'll do the wacky tournaments next year, or do you feel like that was
The wacky courts?
or the wacky courts? I mean,
Yeah. They might tone it back a little bit, but I think there will be...
I think they'll be unique courts, but do you think they'll? That's my question. Do you think it'll be like mildly unique, or will they be red and yellow and green? And
I think they'll tone it back a bit.
They got some of them right. There was
Yeah.
that beautiful. Was it Memphis who had that really?
Yeah.
I think
really
they might
Memphis
do
and
away with the
Milwaukee.
red and blues.
Yeah, the red and blues are a little harsh.
Purples.
like not two colors, right? Like almost like a woodish color, and then a one color, like the strip or something.
Yeah, well, that's what they should have done. They should have just done like a regular court and then the strip down the middle.
So I was talking, I have some people, I have an interesting group I always talk with about the media or the business side of the NBA and media. And, the numbers on this tournament have not been good. Like, we've all loved it. And I think the type of people that tune into this show every single day love it because they're diehards. They want to know, they follow the NBA on a game-by-game basis. Yeah. The people that don't, the casuals, which make up 80% of viewers, have not gotten into this tournament, and that the numbers really haven't reflected that. And I kind of find it interesting because it feels to me like this tournament is a huge success. And it's a huge success because it's been very compelling if you're an NBA fan, and the intensity of the games has been up. But that doesn't necessarily mean more money. That just means like we're liking our product better, right? Us diehards. And I'm kind of curious to see the long-term effects of the tournament because I don't know that Adam Silver will be able to stick with this year after year after year if it doesn't mean there's money involved, ultimately.
When I talk to casual NBA fans about the tournament, they are like, yeah, I have no idea what's going on.
Right.
That's the common sentiment I get. Like, I have no idea how it works. I have no idea when these games are. There's a single elimination tournament. Like, how do you get into the
right?
There's really not a lot of understanding about it. And I mean, for a casual NBA fan, I can see how it is confusing if you're just popping into the NBA and you're not tracking it day to day. I think like year to year though, it can probably get easier to understand.
Right.
So I think there's some hope with that there.
Unless they tweak it, which I kind of feel like they're going to tweak it next year.
Maybe. I mean, I think, well, this is part of why the courts do make sense, is you just have to hit the casual viewer over the head with the fact that this is different. A little bug in the bottom that says NBA in-season tournament is, like we would notice that, but a lot of people wouldn't. I think people will. I don't really think it's that complicated. I think it's just that people were not used to it.
People have been following an 82-game season for the last 50 years.
And exactly. And people who are used to tournament formats, particularly the European crowd, like had no issue wrapping their minds around what this was. So the tweaking will be interesting. I don't know do you have any obvious tweaks that you see are needed?
Well, it's not even, I don't know about the tweaks. I mean, we can get to that maybe a little bit later in the show because I do want to talk about these games later on, but more as a concept of, here's the harsh truth that the NBA is running into. One, culturally, I think players stopped caring. And I think that this tournament has made them care more. And so in that one way, it's a massive success. But the NBA has a hard time grabbing anyone's attention till Christmas. Christmas is the unofficial start of the NBA season. College football is more or less over. You kind of turn the calendar towards the NBA. And what they're learning is that these games have been incredible. There's real buzz around the excitement of the games from the people that are already watching, but it hasn't. The people that watch football and don't watch till Christmas followed that same pattern. They're not tuned in. And then putting this game at 3 o'clock probably didn't help. Maybe they would have tuned in slightly earlier, but
I know that's crazy to me, man.
It's 2 o'clock on the West Coast right now. Like
this has no chance of grabbing the sports world right now.
Yeah, so it's a little bit weird. Let's get into some Nuggets hangover takes though. I have not yet rewatched last night's game. I don't know that I'm going to get a chance to rewatch last night's game.
Well, we'll cut you some slack. You don't have to.
I would like to because sometimes it's interesting to go back and see, hey, what is going on that the Clippers are having success with? Was it just Jokic missing? Is there some subtle detail? I'll tell you that sleeping on it, just weird game, man. I don't feel necessarily any different. More so than any other game, I don't feel like I feel differently now than I did last night. Usually I do have like a different perspective here or there.
Well, it's hard when such a large part of the analysis begins and ends with Jokic not playing well.
We've just never been here before.
We've just never been there before. And so there's all these little things where you kind of want to go if and or but, especially the bench. Like as a matter of fact, in terms of plus minus, the bench is what lost them the game. But there is an expected baseline of what Jokic provides you, and it wasn't there. And it almost makes the rest of it feel moot, It's not necessarily. There are some observations that are worth talking about, I suppose. But, it sort of begins and ends with something that we're not used to.
Yeah, I usually also have a different take about the game the next day. But no, I just pretty much have the same takes. It was the worst shooting game in Nikola Jokic's career. I don't think he's going to play a game worse than that this season.
I don't think so either.
Like, I don't think he'll play a game close to as worse as that the rest of the season. He was still
shocked.
a +1 in 9 minutes.
Which is hilarious, by the way. That's kind of useful information, but
Yeah, I think if we did rewatch the game, we would probably come to the conclusion that it was actually the bench that lost them the game, not Jokic, though. Jokic was bad. He did shoot terribly, but they still won his minutes.
yeah, Jokic just didn't save him like he always saves him. Is
Right.
kind of really the way to say
I
it.
mean, Peyton Watson was a -15, although we thought he played well.
Yeah, as Julian, though, was really bad. He was definitely
Julian
bad in
was
the
a
scene.
-9, Christian Brown -17, Reggie Jackson -11, DeAndre Jordan holding strong at backup center at -8.
Honestly, not that bad for the bar where it is.
And he had some nice oops in the second half.
He was
you know?
fine. There was really some defensive lowlights, but it was. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of Zeke's games looked like. Grading them, he just throws a C- on like, well, he grabbed some rebounds, tried hard.
You guys, I blame myself for this loss because
Okay,
we
that works
just
for me.
made the video. It works for you. Are you fine with that? You're on board?
Yep.
Because I just made the video about how Yoke's real weapon, biggest weapon, is not his passing or his IQ. It's his shots from floater zone, of which coming into the game, I think he was at 69%. Very nice.
Nice.
69%. Leading the NBA, almost double the amount of makes. In fact, I think it was double the amount of makes of anyone near him. Well, last night, he went 1 of 8 from floater zone. 1 of 8. He lowered himself from 69% to 64%. Merely pedestrian. And worse, do you know who passed him in percentage last night? The
Was
guy
it-
he was going up against,
No.
Ivica Zubac.
That hurts.
That hurts a little bit. He is now 30 from 43 from floater zone. Had a good night last night and is at 70% now in the zone. So he was good, but he was like way low on. He was like half, and he still is half the attempts.
Is it the worst part of his game? The floater zone?
It might be now
All
the
of a
worst part of
sudden-
his game.
all
He
of
takes
a
so
sudden-
many of them.
I was thinking about this, though. Do we have to give any credit to Zubac here? Because in 2 games against the Clippers so far,
Yeah.
and they've both come, you know, these 2 games I'm speaking about came in the last couple of weeks. Jokic shot 8 of 23, 35%. That was his worst shooting game, I think, before last night.
8 of 23 is really bad for Yoke.
It's terrible. It's
That was
awful.
what I thought was worst case scenario.
If Jokic shoots below like 55%, it's bad.
Yeah.
He does that like once or twice a season.
Yeah.
If he's in the 40s or 30s, it's a terrible shooting game.
Yeah.
But in that matchup with the Clippers, you know, the bailout in LA, a couple weeks ago, he shot 8 of 23 last night.
No, he wasn't in the bailout. It was the one before.
Oh yeah, that was before that. 8 of
Yeah.
23, and then he shot 9 of 32 last night. I don't know. Do we have to give any credit to Zubac here?
I do. I think probably not just Zubac. I think it's the entire team, because one of the things that I think they did last night was sort of shrink the court and just use their length and help. And this is why there weren't, as many passing lanes. So I think it's a Clippers collective thing. But here's the thing. This feels more to me like the Rui adjustment. This feels more like one where it's like, yes, it does make an impact and make things tough. But Yoke just played a bad game.
Right. That's the thing.
And that's not a solve. It's, they did the thing that is hard for Yoke, or they did something that was hard for Yoke, but he's going to solve it. And probably the next time they play, he murders them.
Also, he has been better in similar, if not the exact same sets of circumstances before, right? So even the ref stuff notwithstanding, like we have seen all of those factors present and still seen Jokic put on masterclasses. There are a large handful, probably 2 handfuls of shots that you watch back and you're like, yeah, no, he just usually hits that one. And I'm surprised he didn't. They had a backup center this time too. And Tice, it's not that he's
so tiny, though.
a world beater or a Jokic stopper or anything, but to Wynn's point, like Zubac has done a decent job, or at least seemingly has, and then Jokic gets to feast sometimes, at least on these smaller Clipper lineups. They got to size up in a way they hadn't in prior matchups. And again, is that a solve? No, but it was just, he did a good job. He was a presence and he was rebounding well last night, and they at least had a big they could go to off the bench.
Last night, and this is my big takeaway, I alluded to it on the show last night, but the game, to me, was the bad side of Inat. And I really think, and Yoke to me has not been the biggest Inat player over the last couple of years. I feel like he's really settled down in a good way. Like he has it in the motivating to upset, to show people, to upset people. But there's just something to him this year, especially over the last month since the Murray injury, where he has just felt like a shorter fuse. And not just a shorter fuse, but that in that thing where he's going to cut off his own nose, spite his face.
Right.
And last night felt a little bit of that. Now, to your point, Wind, he was taking shots we want him to take. And honestly, he's not going 9 of 32 again, so I don't think we should overthink this. But there was a little bit of a, like, I'm going to force it through this way because that three he took at the end was one of those where, like, all right, you're just mad because you're missing three, so you're taking a three in a tough moment. And honestly, it's a story. If I had to say, after last night, it's officially a story for me about Jokic this season. He's more aggressive, he's coaching more, and he has a shorter fuse than ever before. And that last one is a double-edged sword that last night I thought was the bad end of the sword.
Yeah. I think it's probably a lot of things that are going into it. I think the officiating is in his head and in the Nuggets' head, partly.
Yeah.
And that's just affecting how they're playing. I think probably not having Jamal Murray has shortened his fuse a little bit as well. Or not because Jamal Murray is injured, but there's just more stress and responsibility on him every game. He's got to play a good game for Denver to win without Jamal. So I feel like there are those two factors. How much they've been on the road might be contributing to it as well. So there's probably a lot of things going into it.
I think, too, I said this on the show last night. I do think there's an extra 5 to 10% of, are we seriously still doing this? I have to still beg for calls and explain to you guys that these are calls. We just went 16-4. Everyone realized I'm the best player alive. I know Jokic doesn't really think in that way, per se, that sentence I just articulated, but that dynamic of, like, how is this still happening? To me, that seems present. Like, he seems particularly frustrated with it. And you know how they, the thing about returning to the scene of the crime. Like, last night, Jokic just kept returning to the scene of the missed shot or no call. He just kept going right back and being like, what about now? What about now?
Right.
And it did, he also is allowed to have a bad game every now and then, but that particular way that he lost his composure, I think is a notable thing to follow.
I think so too, man. All right, let's take our first break. On the other side, Reggie Jackson. Let's pull up the numbers comparing him and Bruce Brown and just see. Let's just take a look and see how those two guys stack up. Bruce last year, Reggie this year.
Guys, if you're going out to Vegas, maybe you're going to the in-season tournament, check out Circa Resort and Casino. Best place in Vegas to stay. You can use code DNVR, get 20% off your entire stay. And, if you're in Denver, if you're not going to Vegas, check out the Circa Sports app. Download the app at circasports.com. You can make all your bets on there as well. Available in Colorado, so make sure to download the app. And also, if you're heading out to Vegas, stay at Circa, man. We stayed there for Summer League. We've stayed there for a lot of different All-City events over the last year or so.
We'd be staying there right now.
We would be staying there right now. It's a great spot, man. New resort, brand new casino. The sportsbook's awesome. The rooms are super nice.
Man, I made so much money at the blackjack table. Who was there with me? It was one of you guys, right?
I wasn't there.
Who was it that I was? Oh, it was Matt Peck, I think.
Sounds right.
I think that does sound right. Cleaning up, man.
Yeah.
D-Line, I think, was there.
Yeah, but
I don't think we lost a hand for 2 hours.
I do want to remind you to download the Circa Sports app. Circa Sports bets can only be made while physically located in the state of Colorado. Must be 21 plus or older. All rights reserved. Circa Sports Colorado encourages you to gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit problemgamblingcolorado.org.
Shady Rays allows you to take on the sun with gear built to last and gear that you can feel comfortable purchasing, because chances are you'll look good, and on the off chance that you don't love the way you look or the way they fit or feel, just return them. You can always exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com, use code DNVR for 50% half off 2+ pairs of solarized sunglasses, 50% half off 2+ pairs. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
Alrighty, and we are back segment 2. So,
Sick pass.
Reggie Jackson has stepped in and replaced Bruce Brown. If you look at Denver's top 5, the exact same. We know come playoffs what that group looks like. Christian Brown, the same if not better than what he was last year. So there you go. There's questions around the 2 replacement guys. Reggie Jackson, though, and do you have this ready, Kale, to pull up? Let's just take a look at some raw numbers here. Points per game right now, 13 points. This is per game, by the way, not even per minutes. Advantage goes to Reggie, 13.6 to 11.5. Rebounds, that was in Bruce's favor, 4.1 to 2.4. Assists, Reggie's favor, 4.5 to 3.4. More of a true point guard, whereas Bruce was kind of a combo point guard. Steals, 1.1 to 0.8 in favor of Bruce. Blocks, 0.6 to 0.3 in favor. Field goal percentage, 2% higher for Reggie Jackson at 50%. 3-point percentage, Reggie's shooting 42% from three.
Yeah.
Underrated, man, how massive that is.
He had some big ones last
Bruce
night.
at 36, so that major advantage for Reggie there. Free throw percentage, Reggie's struggling. He's part of the problem here, 66%. Ouch. Effective field goal percentage, though, strong advantage, 3% advantage for Reggie. And then box plus minus, the catch-all metric has Reggie ahead as well. Vorp has Bruce ahead. So to me, I look at these and I go, that's about a 50-50 statistical split. When you put those guys side by side, Reggie, more of a pure point, right? Bruce, more of a combo guard. Bruce, probably more of a defender and more of a catch-all player. Reggie has been a guy, though, that like has made probably a bigger direct impact on wins, meaning he hasn't just like he's won games, including the bailout. So vote. Is it crazy to say that Reggie has kind of been, to this point at least, as good as Bruce was last year in this role?
No, it's not crazy. And obviously kind of different sides here. You know, one more defensive oriented, one more offensive oriented in general. But the impact has been really similar. I think people forget, like, the bench was horrible last year. The non-Jokic minutes were really bad.
Yeah.
And Bruce could come in and play well with the starters. He wasn't saving a lot of units as a second unit guy. And he was really a ball handler and point guard by default. He could do those things. They weren't what made him so valuable as an NBA player in my mind. And so given that Jamal's been out and Denver has a real lack of ball handling right now, Reggie has been what they need in a way that Bruce was last year. They're different players. It would probably be a different kind of playoff impact, but I think people forget that in the regular season, Bruce wasn't exactly an all-star last year, and the bench had very, very similar struggles.
The Nuggets with Bruce Brown on the court and Jokic off last year -10 net rating. -10, 117 defensive rating, 107 offensive rating. So numbers were really bad with him without Jokic last year.
Yeah. Reggie Jackson's been great. I mean, you mentioned his percentages earlier. He's shooting a career high from the field. He's never shot over 50% in his career from the floor. He's at 50.4% right now.
Woo, hanging by a thread.
And that's, still taking double-digit shots per game.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, it's not like he's reduced. Yep.
He's taken 4 threes a game. That's pretty much at his career average. He's shooting 42%. He's only had 2 seasons in his career where he shot above 40%. So he's flirting with a new career high there. His turnovers have been pretty fine. He's taking care of the ball. His assists have been great. The only difference is I feel like last season the Nuggets were better without Jamal Murray than they were this year. And so far they're 7-6 without him this year. Last year I think they were better than that without Jamal Murray. And that's the only reason I'd give that some pause.
I think that this is a stylistic difference, but here's the thing. Reggie really wanted to be a part of this team the way that Bruce did, but he stayed around all summer. And like part of this, we want to go like, oh, when you play with Jokic, you're better, and we give credit to Jokic. I got to say, man, Reggie, if you look at his shooting, got better as his career went on. He wasn't a great shooter early on, and he's making himself. And when you mentioned, he's only had a couple seasons at 40%. They're recent. They were 2020 and 2021. So like he has, I think, become a better shooter. And the fact that this summer he was like, nope, I want to make an impact this year. I want to be there. And now he's having a career year. I give him a lot of credit. I think he has molded himself into a much better player suited for this role because of his work. And then it's funny because Bruce was a hustler, brought toughness, versatile, but he wasn't a point guard, but he was versatile enough that he could play point guard. Reggie's a true point guard. I mean, he's been playing even more of a point guard role this year than I expected him to do, but he fills a positional need. So to me, I don't think it's fair to say that he's been better than Bruce. Bruce was phenomenal, especially in the playoffs. But he has been better in a more narrow role. Bruce, I think, was like a jack of all trades for Denver. Reggie has been an ace of one very specific trait that has been extremely needed for Denver over this stretch. And so I guess that's how I would say it. I don't think I would say one way or the other.
They're obviously not directly comparable players, but I do think the notion that, like, okay, Denver's missing what they had last year is a bit misguided, at least in the regular season. They have a sixth guy who's providing.
Right.
You know, a lot of it really, in my opinion, has been Jamal's absence. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And a couple of 5-game and 7-night stretches. But they have had that sixth guy, and they still have Christian. So it's not, again, like, these problems don't strike me as new, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that it's kind of a more interesting
close.
comp. And I would say that at this moment, I do feel good about 7 guys, you know, going into the playoffs.
That's it.
Reggie and Christian, and that's what you need. I do think, again, I've talked about this, but Denver has a Bruce's intensity deficiency. Like, they're missing that part. And then I look at it, the next guys after that, and I just go, Peyton Watson to me is close to being that guy. He's got to figure out, you know, he's got to be consistent. He's got to do this a little bit longer. But at this moment, I look at it and I go, if you told me Peyton Watson checked into a playoff game right now, played 12 minutes or whatever it is you would expect that role to go, I would be like, I'll bet you he defended really well. I'll bet you Denver's offense looked rough. But in the playoffs, you're probably giving multiple starters. It's not a full bench lineup. So hopefully the offense matters less. But his defense right now, I think he's more likely. I mean, remember, even Christian got cut out of the rotation some games. Even Jeff was reduced minutes some games. So to me, like, could he play in most playoff games, and every now and then he just makes a major impact where it's like, yeah, we're leaving him out there, a la Christian Brown in Game 3 of the Finals. We're leaving him out there for 20 minutes. I think at the moment, I think he's on pace for that, man. I really do.
He's clearly the 8th guy right now. He's clearly the 3rd guy off the bench that you project in that playoff rotation. And yeah, I agree, man. If he keeps on this current track, he should be a lock for the playoff rotation in that same role that Christian Brown was in by the end of the season. He's trending that way. I mean, his defense, he's a different defender than Christian Brown. Like, Christian Brown was ready-made for the NBA on night 1 of the regular season. Peyton Watson was not that. But I just have loved the trajectory that Peyton Watson is on. And it seems like just possession by possession, minute by minute, the game is slowing down for him.
Yeah.
He's becoming more comfortable. He's reading the game better on both ends of the floor. And I just love the learning curve that he's taken. It feels like he's getting better quickly.
Can I tell you, this sounds like a hot take, but I think I believe it. Since the Spurs game, I think it's 5 games, I think he's been a better defender than Christian. You said Christian's tailor-made for the NBA because he doesn't make mistakes. He's that long. What's impressed me about Peyton is the lack of mistakes over these last handful of games. And then obviously his ability to shadow. But I actually think he has been a better defender over the last 5 games than even Christian Brown has. I
think Christian's focus has shifted a bit too. He's had a lot on his plate in terms of their
point guard.
Yeah, and he's not one.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like one of the biggest difference between Brown's defense from this year to last year was last year when he was on the floor. It was more like Peyton is now. Like, hey, just go do that one thing, man. And he did it very, very well.
Any other notes on this Reggie versus Bruce thing concept at all?
How about Reggie Jackson going from a signing that we had some questions about?
Of course. Hated.
And everybody outside of Denver laughed at, to him being on actually a great contract.
But now him being like a circle of trust guy.
Maybe one of the better signings of the offseason.
I mean,
at
look,
$5 million a year.
Could Reggie give? There were those handful of games where Bruce gives you, what was it in the playoffs? Let's say 16 points off the bench, and you needed it. Can Reggie be that guy? Yeah,
dude. We were like arguing about, could anybody score 10 points a game off the bench in the preseason, and we had a hard time saying yes. But the only guy that could do that was Reggie, and that's been part of his value. Like, we talk about all the little intricacies of the game, defense, reading the floor, like cutting, moving with like the Jokic ball system. You also just sometimes need a guy to get a bucket.
Yeah.
And especially with Jamal Murray out, they've needed their point guard to be a threat to score.
Right.
Yeah.
Be a threat to put the ball in the hoop. And that is what Reggie Jackson has been. He's scored the ball well, and he scored it efficiently too. And he's a threat. He's a threat out there for the defense.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side, I'm curious if you guys feel like some teams have risen or fallen as threats to the Nuggets. Is there anybody that you cross off the list as a threat to Denver in the West? Is there anybody you add to the list? We'll talk about that on the other side.
If you need tickets to concert shows, sporting events, make sure to check out the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app. Use code DNVR when you sign up. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase on Game Time. They've got these great last-minute price drops as well, lowest prices too. If you're looking to go to a Nuggets game, they play tomorrow. They got the Rockets here at Ball Arena. If you're looking for tickets for that, Avs games, Broncos games, concert shows, whatever you need, Game Time has got you covered. So download the Game Time app. Create an account, use code DNVR. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase when you use the Game Time app. Terms apply. Create an account. DNVR as the code. $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed.
Ran out of marijuana recently. I already know where I'm going to re-up. I'm going to Kind Love. A, because they're official partner of DNVR and I like supporting local brands. But B, because I know that the Kind Love cannabis, it's always going to give me a consistent, great experience, quality, integrity, consistency, variety, and safety. It's what they're all about. It's what I'm all about. Check out what they provide, which is a full menu, everything you come to expect from a modern dispensary and more. They have their own game-changing products in the industry, like Turbo Core, the 100 milligram stick that looks like a toothpick, except what does it do? Makes your joint turbo. Pretty cool. Visit one of their stores in Cherry Creek, North Denver. Mention DNVR, receive a DNVR exclusive discount of 25% off all Kind Love flower pre-rolls and their turbo joint line. Also visit their website at kindlove.com. Use code DNVR.
There you go. All right, back here, segment 3. Threats in the Western Conference. Threats in the Western Conference. Is there anybody that has risen, Wind, in your ranking of teams from the start of the year who you now look at and say, this team is definitely a bigger threat than I thought?
Well, obviously Minnesota. I mean, that's the clear one. I definitely thought they could be like a top 4 seed. I thought they could avoid the play-in for sure. I saw enough in the playoffs. I have a healthy respect for Minnesota.
16-4.
But I didn't see them being number 1 in the West at this point in the season.
Number 1, 3 games
Number
up.
1 with a bullet and like a huge point differential and a great defense. They've had it all so far, and like they just seem to be in such a great spot. Rudy Gobert is the runaway defensive player of the year. Everybody likes Rudy Gobert again.
Was that the guy that got a standing ovation in Minnesota last night? Is that the guy you're talking about? Remember how mad they were when that deal happened and how much they hated him to a standing ovation?
Yeah.
Plus 31.
They, to me, have risen the most, clearly.
All right, just stay on them for a second.
Yeah, I thought they were a threat to the Nuggets heading into the season, just based off last year.
Yeah.
5 games, a tough 5 games. A lot of people around the team thought Minnesota was their toughest matchup in the playoffs. Thought they'd be a tough matchup again, but they are clearly the toughest matchup for the Nuggets in the West, I think. Clearly.
Seasons are so long, Vote, that I feel like the Timberwolves at the end of the season were actually a really good team. And this is why when Denver came out of that series, they were like, you guys don't realize they were actually the toughest challenge. And I think even me defaulted to, well, the Nuggets weren't in playoff mode yet. They were just, maybe not. They were just good at the end of the year last year and they've carried it over. So do you agree? Is this the top threat?
Yeah, I do. And I think last time we talked about this, I said they match up the best with Denver. I don't know if I would say they're the second best team in the West. I would now.
Yep.
I would
That's
now.
a great way to phrase it.
They are to me. And they've had some scheduling benefits and gifts to start the year. But what do you do with that? They took advantage of it and they're off to the tone. Like they set the exact tone, the very best tone they could hope to set to start the season. It's not just the record. It is the vibes. The Rudy thing matters. They were hitting each other in huddles last year. They've come a long way. And 10-1 at home, 6-3 on the road so far. So they've taken care of business, and I think that they have proven until otherwise proven, they are the second best team in the West and a legitimate threat.
Oh, the tour de force, man. A lot of great takes in one little bite size there. I love that you mentioned the vibes because this matters. A team that they have this thing going where they have been in purgatory for a while, and since Jimmy Butler left. and all the way up until this year, they've kind of been a team that's like, are we going somewhere or are we not? Are we
Right.
kind of just like meandering now in the Towns era? They have the energy of a team. They have the energy of a team that is like, wow, this is coming together for us. Like, we all kind of believe in each other. We believe in ourselves. We like who we are. And they're riding a wave right now. They are 16-4 in part because they are riding a wave.
Fun to go to work.
Fun to go to work. This is probably the first time it's been fun to go to work at Target Center in a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. And I'm going to go further, guys. There's only one team in that tier. And it's Minnesota. To me,
For sure.
they are. I love the way you phrased it about they used to just be a tough matchup for Denver. To no, they're just the best team outside of Denver and a tough matchup for Denver.
I think so.
To me, easily, and I am very comfortable saying they are the top threat to Denver in the West, and nobody else is in their tier at a moment.
I'm with it.
Next tier I go up would be called Denver's Advantage. These are good teams that I just think Denver is still better than.
Right.
So could they lose to them? Of course. But Denver should win even though these teams are threats. I went with the Lakers and the Suns. Now, I could have easily put the Suns in my next category, but which we'll get to here next. But the Lakers still have LeBron. They're in this in-season tournament. Their best is good. They can't. My take for LeBron's Lakers era is that they're really good. They just can't be very good very often. They just can't. And I think that I've seen enough from the Lakers to say their best punch is really good. But I still think Denver's best punch is like, I don't want to say comfortably better, but meaningfully better.
Yeah, like 4 games better, you could say.
They did sweep them. They did sweep them.
And I thought the Lakers played well. That's what everyone.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
but I thought that Denver played well too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Denver played well in their 4 wins against the Suns,
did,
but
they
they
did.
did not play well in their 2 losses. Denver played well in all 4 games against the Lakers.
Those were A+ games against A+ games, I
Yep.
thought.
And then that's how it went.
Yeah, those 2 are next up for me, definitely. But I would almost say it's Minnesota. There's nobody in the next tier.
Yeah.
And then it might be the Lakers and Suns.
Doesn't this kind of make you feel a little bit good about things, though?
I was just looking at the standings and I'm like, I feel very good.
Here's my weird take is that I think the first and third rounds are going to, if things are the way that they are right now, the first and last rounds of the West are going to be way tougher than the middle. All the teams that are in that middle zone for Denver, the like Oklahoma Cities and Sacramento's
Yeah.
and Dallases, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But all right, Suns, Lakers. Is there anybody else that you think is in this next sub tier?
I think you could make the argument for the Thunder. The easier pushback is, are they ready yet? They're younger. Do they have as much top-end talent like those guys do?
Can you imagine Chet Holmgren versus Nikola Jokic in a
For a
playoff
whole
series, man?
Yeah, so that's kind of...
I kind of hope for it, man.
That's why I'm not just throwing them in there. And SGA, I think, has stuff to prove in the playoffs still, as many young players do and did. That's not unique. But, you know, they don't have LeBron James or Devin Booker. Although, you know, elimination game Devin Booker, elimination game SGA, not that different. But I just think that they should get some credit for the things they're doing right while we sit here and figure out if those other 2 teams can put it together. I think Phoenix has a long way to go before they strike fear in anyone. The Lakers, you still go, all right, if LeBron plays his best 4 games, that's tough. But with the Suns, I just think, are they going to be healthy? Are they going to get a stop? And they have to prove the answers to those are yes before I move them up.
The next tier for me was called like paper tigers. They've done nothing to prove it, but on paper, they could be threats. This is why I say the Suns.
See, I kind of want to put the Suns.
The
here.
Suns should probably be there, but I'll be honest, man. Like,
I know, I get it.
they have been together enough for me to go like, yeah, when they're together, they're a tough matchup. I still love Denver's advantage over them, but the paper tigers, the Pelicans, the Clippers, and the Warriors. The Warriors look terrible, so I can't say that they look like a threat. There's nothing that has changed them. But I do look at it and go, yeah, but on paper, they could culminate at the right moment and just be a threat in some... The same season they had last year, where they sucked all year, then they get to the playoffs and they win a round. Like, paper tigers. But the Pelicans, to me, are the class of that list, where I look at it and I go, man, I don't trust that team. I would never bet on them. But, man, their best is really, really good.
I would probably put the Warriors at the top of that tier. Just because, I mean, we did see the Nuggets against the Warriors earlier this season. Jamal Murray didn't play in that game. It's a tough matchup for Denver. I still think if Steph
Pick and roll.
Curry's at the top of his game, he can create a lot of problems for the Nuggets.
He might be at the top of his game right now.
Yeah.
He might be the best we've seen.
I do think if Draymond finds the fountain of youth in that series, he can create problems for Denver. I'm not scared by the Warriors. I think that'd be a series the Nuggets actually handle fairly easily if they're getting the Warriors team that we see right now. But I still have some respect for them.
Yeah. And then my last tier, which is like should not be threats. Not because they're not good teams, but I just think Denver matches up. And that's the Mavs, the Kings, the Thunder, and the Rockets. I hesitated putting the Kings here, but watching them the other day in that in-season tournament elimination game, they can't guard, man. If you can't guard Denver, you better be... Like, the Phoenix Suns are a scary offense, and I'm like, yeah, but you can't outscore Denver. You can't guard them. The Kings definitely can't guard Denver. It means they definitely can't outscore them.
Yeah.
And Sabonis in a playoff series, until further notice, not that guy.
Yeah.
But as a team, just like a regular season tier list, not the Denver matchup, but in a vacuum, take your drinks, I would say the Kings are a considerably better team than these rankings would imply. But I'm with you in terms of the matchup in a series. It's hard to imagine the Kings winning for me.
Any team that's got JaVale McGee in their rotation just can't be in the conversation.
JaVale McGee dropped a masterclass on DeAndre Jordan.
So that's it. I mean, I will say this exercise really made me realize how much I think the Wolves are going to be a real challenge if they match up, and how much I think all the other teams in the West are like. Denver's on track right now for me to be like, it would be a shame if they lost to any of those other teams. A shame. And that's with Denver not even playing that great right now. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Take a break. On the other side, some final notes about this in-season tournament, what we think, what we're fearing tonight. And by the way, right now, Indiana leads Milwaukee. The good guys lead Milwaukee in the matinee, the NBA's marquee matinee.
It's going on right now at 3:57 p.m. Mountain Time, if you weren't aware.
Yeah.
When even we can't watch it, something's wrong, We've built our lives around this flexibility.
A great holiday gift for a special somebody. It's from Breckenridge Distillery. Check out the Breckenridge Bourbon. They've also got a new Broncos Blizzard right now. New vodka commemorating the first white alternate Broncos helmets. Breckenridge Distillery, the world's highest distillery. Founded in 2008, they are most widely known for their blended bourbon whiskey, a high rye mash American-style whiskey. Our Breckenridge Bourbon is one of the most highly awarded craft bourbons in the United States. Breckenridge Distillery is more than an award-winning spirit. They offer an immersive guest experience if you're up there as well. It's a great gift with the holidays coming up. Don't panic and buy your Christmas gifts last minute. Get out of the way. Go to BreckenridgeDistillery.com for home delivery of award-winning Breckenridge spirits.
You don't have to be a spirit guy or gal to be a Breck guy or gal. If you like brew, we've got some good news for you. Breck Brew does it up. They're our favorite beers here at DNVR. They've got beers for almost every occasion. Not that you need to drink on every occasion. If you're looking to try out the myriad, the wonderful variety of delicious and exciting Breck brews, come to the DNVR bar. We've got them all either on cans or in tap, or go to the Breck Beer locator at breckbrew.com to find a brew near you.
All right, back here on the DNVR Nuggets podcast. Adam at the duck out. He says he scheduled a radio interview. I'm just going to put him on blast. He said
Kale, cut to the chair.
He's scheduled a radio interview for 4.
Yeah.
And it's 3:58.
I'm glad you brought this up.
During the show.
What? I was going to say, what would he say to D-Line right now? What time has our show been every day for the last? Unbelievable.
What were we supposed to talk about in the last segment?
I guess the in-season tournament, or just the state of the NBA at large. Where would you like to go? And it's up to us. It's up to us right now.
That's a great question, Vote. Where should we go?
Let me ask you a question, if that's all right.
Please.
Will we remember the winners of the in-season tournaments? Like, will we think of, at the end of the year, when we sort of take inventory of all these teams, let's say the Pacers go on to win it, but they don't make any noise in the playoffs. Do you include the in-season tournament as part of their story? Does it matter to you at all?
Absolutely, man. And I was listening to a podcast on my way in about, like, who's the MVP at this point in the season. Will the in-season tournament be weighed anymore in somebody's MVP case? I think absolutely yes. It's a definite story of the season. If the Indiana Pacers win the in-season tournament, like that could be a defining point of their year. If Tyrese Halliburton continues on this track, if the Pacers win the in-season tournament, if he was tournament MVP, even if they just make it to the championship game, that I definitely think vaults him up like a cup. That gives him some, backing at the end of the year. If we're talking about like, is he 5th or 4th or 3rd in the MVP race? Should he be all NBA first team?
Right. And when trying to deciphering empty stats and stuff between different levels of buckets getters, this isn't the playoffs, but it's something close. It's something more than a regular season environment. So to your point, some of these early young talents, well, how do they perform when the lights are bright? And this is an early answer for a guy who might not make much noise in the playoffs. I love it.
I mean, we saw how the lights were bright for Devin Booker the other night.
Too bright even.
Yeah.
Maybe they are like playoff games.
So I definitely think it's going to be something that factors in. Maybe for the teams and players like the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton, more so than for the teams and the players like Giannis and the Bucks.
Right. The Bucks winning it would probably mean very little to them, especially after losing in the first round last year. They have bigger fish to fry.
Has anybody raised their profile more than Tyrese Halliburton this season?
No.
In your opinion?
No, I think he's made the leap. I think everyone in Denver refers to him as their favorite non-Jokic watch.
I know. And the coolest thing to say if you cover the NBA is Tyrese Halliburton's my second favorite player.
Love watching him. Just love watching him. But I do think that that's legitimate because he looks so... The self-creation is at a level that I never thought. I knew he'd be a stud playmaker and all that, but like that 3 he hit the other night, the step back and one, it's like that's just a level of score. That's superstar stuff, man.
Yeah. If I was putting together a quick list of guys who have raised their profiles the most, Halliburton's at the top. I think Anthony Edwards is probably on that list somewhere. It's funny. I was listening to PTI the other day, and Mike Wilbon gets on there, and he goes, "My MVP right now, Anthony Edwards." I'm like, yeah, I get it. The Timberwolves are 16-4, top of the West. If you look at his numbers, though, 26.6 rebounds, 5 assists, they're really impressive.
Very impressive.
They're not like otherworldly, though. His points per game is only up 1 point from last year. His rebounds are about the same. His assists are up slightly. His percentages are pretty much identical. But coming off the World Cup last year and just the Timberwolves being good, I feel like he's raised his standing a lot.
Tyrese Maxey has to be at the very top of this list.
Tyrese Maxey's got to be on that list as well.
Who do you like in...
De'Aaron Fox could be on that list.
Yeah, I think last year he kind of made that leap, especially because he showed out in the first round.
Yeah.
Who do you have in the next game, Pelicans or Lakers? Can you see the Pelicans pulling it out?
Absolutely, man. The Lakers, you get the feeling the Lakers and LeBron really want this tournament.
I think they do. I think they really do.
They really want this. And the NBA really wants them to win it too. I got to actually see who's on the official crew for tonight.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, I think Adam's point about the Lakers sort of only being able to look great or worthy in short spurts at a time makes this a perfect way for platform for them.
Well,
to
they put Scott Foster on the Lakers-Pelicans game, so that tells you all you need to know. But can the Pelicans win? Can they overcome Scott Foster and the Lakers? Absolutely. We've hyped up the Pelicans a bit on this show. They're good, man. They have great defenders all over the place. They've got good defensive matchups for, some of the Lakers guys. But the Lakers are going to want this thing. So
I really think they do. All right, what do you think? Should we?
Yeah.
Should we get out of
guys?
here?
Thanks for tuning in today. Hell of a Thursday show. We got a home game tomorrow. Nuggets Rockets tomorrow.
Oh, thank goodness.
At Ball Arena. I'll be there.
I was going to turn up the Rockets on the road noise, but I think Harrison and I are slightly humbled after that Clippers loss.
It does feel like the Rockets have, or the Nuggets have only played the Rockets and the Pelicans.
And the Clippers.
This season.
But I'll take it at home, and hopefully the shooters stay hot.
Yeah. Guys, throw a quick thumbs up before we get out of here. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
like the mayor.